Hey everyone, welcome back. What we're working on today is we're doing a used but new to me Fox body hatch latch lock and license plate lights. So I've already put in the wiring harness here and this is already all taken apart. If you're replacing one of these three components, it's pretty self-explanatory. There's 4 bolts on the latch assembly. There's 2 here and 2 underneath here. Right there. And there's a bracket, which is this guy, slides along right in here. So you'll pull the bracket down, and then there's nut-certs inside of here. License plate light holes, there's 2 screw mounts per hole, and then the latch assembly here, lock. So from the factory there's a plate that goes across here, and then there's a rivet, but mine's all been drilled out. So tools you'll need. This one's pretty easy. You need a Phillips screwdriver. Lock assembly. You need a Sharpie. A lot of these universal lock kits, this extension is too long. So, and then I use pliers to push this in and out. When I'm finally ready to send this home completely, I'll use a drift and a piece of wood. And then the latch assembly, just an 8mm. Just 4 of these. So this lock assembly, there's tabs. There's a bigger tab at the top, and there's a bigger one on the sides, and this will just slide in like this. So it took me a couple seconds to look at this to figure out the spring actually holds the extension here, and you just kind of put this guy in here, and there you go. So this is ready to get threaded in there. When you're putting this on, don't forget to put on the gasket. Otherwise you're going to end up with water in your trunk most likely, and that's not fun. So there we go. And now I'm just going to thread this on in. So on this side here, I'm trying to do this one-handed. Thread this guy on in, and it'll stop you for going the wrong way, which it looks like you're going the wrong way right now. I was. And that's that. Just push it in. And you can see here, this is way too long because this latch piece this guy here will slide up and in here. So it's going to take an educated guess to figure out up and in this way. So you can do a couple of different things. I'm actually just going to measure how far out this plastic piece is from the base, from this flat edge here, and then mark this and then cut it. So the motor goes up in there, and you can see here I've got the latch and the lock too far out. Now this is 0.970 inches for thickness, but what really matters is you want this to be flush. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bolt this in, and then we're going to push the rod in and measure the length of the lock cylinder and then cut that off this edge. So I left this plate off because otherwise you won't be able to see this, but this is the that plastic piece you're trying to get the rod into. So we'll thread this guy back in. Now you can put this in this way or this way. This is the correct way it goes in. Tab up. So it should look like this when you're in. We'll thread this guy in, and I already know it's going to be too long, so you can see it's sticking past. So I'll just slide that in there and you bottom it out. And you've got quite a bit of room here. You know, you got the thickness of that bushing, which is probably a little over 1/4 of an inch. So you can make it a little bit long, but you definitely don't want it to be short because then you're going to be engaging at the end. You want as much of this plastic as you can. So in the spirit of precision, you want to measure twice and only cut once if you can. So now we can see we're essentially flush to about the rod. So we can get a good angle of that. There we go. So it's the whole length of the lock cylinder needs to be removed from the rod. So when we're measuring, we want to go from the gasket sits on the outside of the trunk to where we were roughly. So 1.56 inches is what we're gonna take off. Now we have a little bit extra wiggle room because of the thickness of that bushing, so we'll just round this up to 1.6 inches off the edge of this. Alright, more tools for the job. You don't need a welding table like I have here, but you do want to be able to cut this off with something. So I think everyone's got a Dremel, so that's what I grabbed. And you're also going to want to use a sander to round the edges. So please wear safety glasses. These, especially if you're using a Dremel, these are really thin and they break off and they fly everywhere. You don't want to catch it in your eye. So I've got it clamped in here. We'll just cut this off quick and round the edges. Alright, I just cut off. I actually changed my mind. I'm going to use a grinding tip to just profile this. You just want to just go to these sharp edges. You can see I've got a little bit of a miscut. I went from the bottom and then the top. But you just want to round the top edge and the bottom edge. Alright, we're all done here. This is the piece I cut off. And the new rounded edge. There we go. So it took a couple minutes, but now we're ready to put it back together. Alright, back together and aligned. You can see how the mechanism works when I put the actual key in. So you can, when you turn the key, see it rotates, and it's just a one way to unlock it versus your door locks go left and right. This is just unlock. So it's important to make sure all this lines up correctly. Set the lock cylinder back in, and we've got really good lineup here. Let's grab the key and make sure it turns. So I went and grabbed the key, and we'll slide it on in there, and we'll make sure all the arms turn. Perfect. So that's going to turn and release this item here. So we're all set. Alright, there we go. I left the plate off so we can just make sure everything's engaging right when I close it a few times. I still have to paint it. The only caveat I have with these generic ones is this is really easy to pull out. This is the retainer. So I'm actually going to fab up a piece of metal that covers over the top and then resecure it with a rivet. So that way this is actually hidden. Because otherwise, when you close your trunk hatch, this part here is actually exposed down here. So in theory, someone could come out to your Mustang and just pull that clip assembly out, and the lock assembly pushes out, and then they could jam a screwdriver in there, turn it, pop it, and then they're in. So in order to prevent that, I'm actually going to block this off. Last part back here is license plate lights. Now some of you are probably asking, why am I bothering to put any license plate lights in a drag car? Well, in the state of Texas, in order to pass a safety inspection, you need to have all working lights. That's why I'm going through all this mess of rerunning wires. I mean, you can see I've got a third brake light I'm re-putting in on the spoiler over there, just so it passes safety inspection. So this is pretty simple. You take your bulb, your LED bulb, slide it right in the housing. Should probably be wearing gloves so I don't get the chipsets all dirty, but I'm just not going to touch the chipset. There we go. And then this just rotates on. So you've already got that one in. Just align where you want it to go and rotate it just like that. Make sure you still got the gasket on there. Slide it into place. Drive your 2 screws home. And we're all set. License plate lights are back. We've got a lock now and a latch. Hopefully someone found this helpful. Don't forget to share, click like if you found this helpful, and subscribe for more updates to the Project Mustang, because I got a lot more to do, as you can see.